Hey, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Back to the Light. I am your host, JD Reager. With me here at Shangri-La Records is the three-time Impact Wrestling World Champion, Deonna Purrazzo. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Impact has a show coming up in Memphis this week, September 22nd and 23rd at Graceland.
Yeah.
Will this be your first time in Memphis?
It's not my first time in Memphis, but it's my first time in a very long time. I wrestled one show here. Maybe I was 20, 21, so 7, 8 years ago, when I had just started wrestling. So I'm excited to be back. And with Impact Wrestling, it's been 11 years since Impact has been in Memphis.
Oh, wow. That might have been, was it still TNA at that time?
I'm not sure. I probably.
Well, this is not your first time in Memphis. Do you have any sort of appreciation or connection to the history of Memphis wrestling, the legacy of like 80s and 90s, the Lawler era? Are you a fan of that stuff?
Yeah, that was a little before my time, but I think all of us wrestlers go back and do our history and watch those tapes. So throughout the day, I've been learning bits and pieces more, but I think that there is such a rich history here, and to bring Impact back and to now I get to be a part of that is what makes this whole weekend coming up so special.
Yeah. You don't really, you don't work a Memphis style, I wouldn't say.
I am a more technical wrestler. I do more, I guess, what you would define as an American style of wrestling, but not that classic Memphis style, no.
So how did you develop your approach to it? How did you get into wrestling?
Yeah, so I started training in a school in New Jersey, at the time called D2W, and what was interesting was it was an old high school building, so the ceilings were low, and you could just fit a wrestling ring and a couple chairs in that one room. So the ceiling was maybe 5 feet higher than our top turnbuckle. So there was no moonsaults from the top ropes, no Spanish flies from the top ropes, frog splashes. It was very based in like catch as catch can wrestling and submission wrestling, and that's what I was trained in originally. And then I was fortunate enough to go down to Louisville and train at OVW with Rip Rogers, who does a very much similar style, and that's how I kind of developed my wrestling style, where I do like to do the more technical aspect of it, and it was natural. There was no other way. I was taught nothing else.
This isn't your first run with Impact / TNA. You were a part of the company several years ago. Mm-hmm. How are things different now from your original run with TNA? Yeah,
so I wasn't contracted talent when I had first come into TNA. I did 2 little appearances here and there. I was more like an extra. Did enhancement talent work. My 8th ever professional wrestling match was in TNA Knockouts Knockdown 2014, where I wrestled Brooke Tessmacher, and that was my introduction to like TV wrestling. I was way in over my head, had no idea what I was doing or who I was. I was shy, scared to like look at the camera, a 19-year-old child. And then fast forward, I did another few weekends in 2016. I did another Knockouts Knockdown where I wrestled Madison Rayne. I did a couple matches with Laurel Vaness, and who's now Chelsea Green. And I knew my wrestling style then, but I didn't have a character. And I remember Gail Kim and I just kept in touch through the years, and, she would come and scout some indies and things that I was on, and her critique was always like, you're a solid wrestler. You can do the wrestling, but we need more. You need to have some kind of character, some kind of personality traits, something that we could do vignettes with. And that's always where I lacked, in terms of my few stints with Impact prior. So I can't really speak much about the company before I was here the last 3 years, because I wasn't really in the company, but where I am now, again, you said a 3-time Knockouts World Champion. I've had the opportunities to work with AAA, with Ring of Honor, with AEW, and the company has really given me the time and the space to grow as a human being, first and foremost, which I appreciate, but also put myself in conversations where I'm one of the best in the world now. And that was my dream as the 9-year-old who wanted to be a professional wrestler, was to be in the conversations I'm in now. And that's all because of Impact Wrestling.
How do you develop that character that helps you get to the next level? You said that was the comment that you got over and over again, that you needed to develop that side. So is it just reps behind the mic? How do you get there?
Yeah, I think for me it was a combination of just surrounding myself with people who I could really learn from. I created the Virtuosa character when I was in Ring of Honor back in 2015, and it was management there saying, again, you're a great wrestler, but we need something more. We need a moniker or a nickname, and what could that be? And I sat on it for a long time, and I wanted something that reflected my wrestling style, which is technical, but I didn't want to be the technician or the mechanic or something that's very generic. And Virtuosa, which by definition means, a person who excels in something technical, mainly pertaining to like an art form, right? And for me, wrestling is my art form. So that also ties into my heritage. I'm Italian American, and I just thought that's who I am. And in Ring of Honor, it really took life. I didn't really need to explain it. People just understood. And then, I went into NXT, and they had me do a lot of character work, and I met just with a lot of people. George Carroll's one of them. My husband, Steve Macklin's one of them. Who sat me down and said, we're going to create a character synopsis, and who is the Virtuosa, and how does she speak, and how does she interact with a Mickie James or a Jordynne Grace, and how does she talk on the microphone, and just all those kinds of things where I'm now not playing a character, I am that character. It's not it becomes second nature. I'm truly that person. And the Virtuosa embodies a lot of who Deonna Purrazzo actually really is. So just doing that kind of work and really putting, pen to paper helped me. And then, again, the experiences I got at Impact Wrestling to be able to do what I do best, which is wrestling, but get on a mic in front of people and get reps backstage with a backstage interviewer and things like that I had never gotten before. It's just reps and finding your confidence. I didn't have that confidence in speaking before.
It seems like Impact is kind of a perfect place to be at this moment in the wrestling business, because not only are you on a weekly TV show, but you have the freedom to kind of bounce around. You mentioned AAA, New Japan, places like that. So does that make it a super fun place to work as a pro wrestler?
Absolutely. I think I speak for everybody when I can say it is a super fun place to work. You're getting the opportunities to get those reps, to get the experience, to grow as a professional, but also your brand, right? We're all individual brands. Who the Virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo is different from the Juggernaut Jordynne Grace or the Boricua badass Tasha Steelz. And Impact gives us the opportunity to capitalize on our uniqueness. And yeah, I've gotten to work all over the world. And when I came to Impact, I was 8 so years in, and I never thought I'm going to have an opportunity to work with New Japan. I'm going to have an opportunity to go to AAA and work in Mexico and do a Triple Mania. And now I've gotten to do 2 of them. I'm a former Reina de Reinas champion. So while it is fun and there's such a camaraderie between all of us, it's really the perfect storm of building your brand and also, having fun.
I think there's something to be said also for just the overall strength of the Impact women's division.
Absolutely.
On some of the shows, I'm not going to mention any names, but sometimes women's matches, maybe you get 1 per episode. Maybe it feels like a token inclusion, but that's not the case with Impact.
Not at all. I was just talking earlier about Mickie James and I becoming the first ever Knockouts World Championship pay-per-view main event back in 2021. And, to be a women's wrestler today and say there's still firsts that we're doing is really special. But then, you think, okay, their Knockouts division has been around for 15, 16 years, however long it is, and we're still making history. We're still at the forefront. We're still proving we can be in the main event, is really important. And week after week, we don't, like you said, just see one women's match. We see, if one, there's a backstage segment or 2. Sometimes there's 2 matches. I've consistently, over the last 3.5 years, been in main event spots on TV and on pay-per-views. So I think that, yes, while we're capitalizing on women's wrestling, the Knockouts is the cornerstone of Impact Wrestling. And we're not just seen as women's wrestlers who go out there and are thrown out there. We're seen as the faces of the company.
Yeah, and the division was just given a pretty big boost by the inclusion of Trinity, I would say. I know that she took the title.
No,
so I'm not trying to,
Oh, you're stirring the pot. No, I can sit here and say whatever's going to grow our knockouts division. That's first and foremost for me. And yes, it's great to be the knockouts world champion, but I think over the last few years, I've solidified myself being able to sit here and talk to you today. Trinity's not here, you know? I'm the face of our company. I'm the face of our knockouts division, whether I'm the champion or not. And for someone to come in with such eyes on her, and her product and what she's doing only benefits our entire division. So I'm not too harsh about it.
Well, what can you tell me about the show coming up? September 22nd, 23rd. We're actually going to be giving away tickets at Shangri-La Records for the show.
Oh, amazing.
So what will you be up to? Do you know yet?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure. I'm sure it will be announced at some point this week. But I think you can always expect amazing wrestling, championships on the line. You never know who's going to pop up at Impact Wrestling. There's always a surprise or two. And we've just been taking over Memphis this whole tour. I'm here today and tomorrow, but then as well, maybe we're going to have some people, doing stuff in the city next week. We're not sure yet. So stay tuned. You never know where will pop up and who's going to show up at our show.
I know you just had a match on pay-per-view, and this will be the last thing I ask you about.
Yeah.
You just had a match with Jordynne Grace on pay-per-view.
Yes.
Also came up short there. But you've had a long relationship rivalry with Jordynne Grace.
Yeah.
Do you think that the story is finished now, or are there more chapters to be told?
Ooh, you know what? Jordynne Grace has won 1, but I've won 4.
You did beat her for the title not too long ago.
I did. I don't know. I would say Jordynne is my forever opponent. I will wrestle her any day of the week. I respect her probably more than I respect anyone else in our locker room or in women's wrestling. She is my toughest opponent, my greatest opponent, and to be in the ring with her as much as I have over the years, and we've known each other pre-Impact, so to grow up and be able to say I've made history with one of my very good friends, but also my greatest opponents, is an honor. So I hope that story never ends.
Okay, real last question. Is there a dream match out there for you that you haven't had yet?
You know what? Impact 1000 just happened, and we saw a little bit of tension between Gail Kim and I. And I think if I had to say my dream match right now, it would be the Virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo versus Gail Kim.
Man, it'd be super sweet if we could get that in Memphis. But I guess you'll just have to wait and see.
You'll have to come and find out.
Deonna Purrazzo, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much for having me.